Hollywood doesn't need to fire you to remove you, it just needs to stop calling. Hollywood's first blacklist, Charlie Chaplin. In 1917, Chaplin became one of the most famous people on the planet. By the early 1920s, the films made more money than most studios combined. That visibility brought attention that went far beyond movie reviews. During World War I, Chaplin publicly supported U.S. war bonds and relief efforts. A few years later, his tone shifted. Speeches began to criticize nationalism, wealth gaps, and unchecked power. None of this was secret. The speeches were public. The problem was timing. By the 1930s, the FBI opened a file. J. Edgar Hoover personally took interest. Internal memos described Chaplin as undesirable, not for crimes, but for views. No arrest followed. No charges were filed. The file kept growing anyway. In 1940, The Great Dictator premiered. The film openly mocked Adolf Hitler before the United States entered the war. Some praised it. Others called it dangerous. After release, the FBI expanded surveillance. Immigration officials began tracking travel. The pressure increased after the war. In 1947, Chaplin was questioned about political beliefs. He declined to declare allegiance to any party. That refusal was noted. So were personal scandals, often amplified by leaked talking points that came from federal sources. In 1952, Chaplin left the United States for a European trip to promote Limelight. While at sea, the U.S. Attorney General revoked his re-entry permit. The notice was public. The language was clear. Chaplin could return only if he agreed to an interrogation about politics and morals. He did not return. No court hearing followed. No deportation order was issued. Studios moved on quickly. Contracts dried up. Distribution slowed. The man who helped build Hollywood was now outside it. The FBI closed the case years later. Thousands of pages were eventually released. They showed years of monitoring without proof of criminal activity. Hoover never apologized. The government never reversed the decision. Chaplin settled in Switzerland. Films continued, but access to American studios remained limited. In 1972, he returned briefly to accept an honorary Oscar. The ovation lasted 12 minutes. The ban had already done its work. The screenwriter purge. Dalton Trumbo. He was one of the highest-paid screenwriters in Hollywood in 1947. Annual income topped $75,000, a massive figure at the time. His name appeared on studio letterhead. Executives took meetings. That visibility placed him directly in the path of a growing political crackdown. That year, the House Un-American Activities Committee summoned several film industry figures to testify about alleged communist influence. Trumbo was part of a group later labeled the Hollywood 10. He was called as a friendly witness. He refused to answer questions about political affiliation. He cited the First Amendment. The exchange was public, tense, and widely reported. Within weeks, the major studios issued a joint statement from New York's Waldorf Astoria Hotel. It became known as the Waldorf Statement. The message was blunt. Anyone who refused to cooperate would not be employed. No timeline, no appeal, just exclusion. Trumbo was indicted for contempt of Congress. In 1950, he was sentenced to 11 months at the federal prison in Ashland, Kentucky. Upon release, his passport was restricted. No studio would hire him under his own name. Agents stopped returning calls. Longtime collaborators cut contact. The bills did not stop. Writing continued. Scripts were sold through intermediaries. Names like Robert Rich appeared on contracts. Payment was routed through friends. Rates dropped sharply. Some scripts sold for a fraction of earlier fees. The workload increased to compensate. In 1954, Roman Holiday won the Academy Award for Best Story. The Oscar went to Robert Rich. Trumbo watched the ceremony from home. 3 years later, the brave one won another Academy Award under the same false credit. The Academy accepted the name without question. Studios knew, producers knew, the fiction held. In 1960, the wall cracked. Actor Kirk Douglas announced Trumbo would receive screen credit for Spartacus. Director Otto Preminger followed weeks later with Exodus. The credits appeared on screen. No lawsuits followed. No hearings reopened. Internal studio memos released years later confirmed coordinated hiring bans. No evidence of espionage appeared in the files. Fear, not proof, drove the purge. The blacklist ended without apology. Career erased by testimony. Zero Mostel. Nobody told him he was finished. That came later, through silence. For years, Zero Mostel had been a reliable name. Broadway producers trusted him. Film studios booked him for character roles. Radio kept him busy between stage work. Then one public refusal changed the pattern. After being subpoenaed by the House Un-American Activities Committee, Mostel chose not to cooperate. He rejected the premise of the questions and declined to name names. The exchange was reported widely. Studios noticed immediately. What followed was not dramatic. Meetings were postponed. Scripts stopped arriving. Casting directors became unavailable. Agents stopped pushing his name. No explanation was offered. None was needed. Film work disappeared first. Television followed studio custom and stayed away. Broadway became cautious. The blacklist did not require paperwork. It relied on shared understanding among producers and executives. Mostel stayed visible, which made matters worse. He spoke openly about his refusal and criticized the hearings. Others stayed quiet and waited. He did not. That choice carried a cost measured in years. To support his family, he turned to teaching, painting, and small theater workshops. None of it paid well. Some months were unstable. Projects rarely reached press listings. Professional momentum collapsed into survival work. Industry records from the period show no formal ban. That absence mattered. Without documentation, there was nothing to appeal. Casting offices simply stopped calling. By the mid-1950s, the pressure eased slightly. Independent theater producers began offering roles again. Film studios did not follow. Television continued to avoid him. When Fiddler on the Roof opened on Broadway in 1964, Mostel returned to national attention. Awards followed. Reviews were strong. The performance revived his visibility but did not restore the lost decade. No studio issued a statement. No executive acknowledged the exclusion. The missing years remained missing. The Studio Silence Contract. Olivia De Havilland. The problem did not start with politics. It started with scripts. At Warner Brothers, Olivia De Havilland worked under the standard studio contract of the era. The studio assigned roles. Refusing a role triggered suspension. Each suspension extended the contract. The loop allowed studios to keep actors locked in place far beyond the original term. She began refusing parts she believed would stall her career. The studio responded with repeated suspensions. When the contract's 7-year term ended on the calendar, Warner Brothers claimed the added suspension time meant she was still bound. De Havilland did not negotiate. She sued. The case moved through California courts and reached the Court of Appeal. The ruling was narrow and precise. Personal service contracts could not exceed 7 calendar years. Suspension time could not be used to extend them. The decision became known inside the industry as the De Havilland Law. Legally, the case was over. Professionally, it was not. Warner Brothers did not issue public statements attacking her. No studio announced retaliation. Instead, access began to shrink. Casting offers slowed. Loanouts became rare. Meetings cooled without explanation. Other studios hesitated. Some projects stalled in development and never resumed. Scripts arrived less often and carried fewer risks. The change was gradual but consistent. Privately, the word difficult followed her. It never appeared in print. It did not need to. Agents understood what it meant. Producers adjusted accordingly. De Havilland continued working, but choice narrowed. The power balance had shifted. She had won in court, but studios still controlled distribution, budgets, and schedules. Independence came with limits. Other actors noticed the response. Legal rights were enforceable. Careers were fragile. The message traveled faster than the ruling itself. In 1949, De Havilland won the Academy Award for The Heiress. The win confirmed her talent and market value. It did not restore studio enthusiasm. She worked selectively and increasingly outside the traditional studio system. Over time, contracts across Hollywood changed. Studios rewrote terms to comply with the ruling. The structure adapted. The attitude did not fully follow. There was no blacklist memo, no hiring ban to point to. Opportunity control did the work quietly and effectively. The lawsuit remained a legal milestone. The professional silence became a cautionary example. Nothing illegal followed. Nothing was documented. That absence carried weight. Whistleblower actor blackballed, Jean Seberg. The pressure did not come from studios at first. It came from the government. Jean Seberg was already an established actress when she became publicly involved in civil rights causes during the 1960s. She donated money to several organizations, including the Black Panther Party. Those donations were legal. They were also documented. The FBI opened a file under COINTELPRO, a counterintelligence program later investigated by Congress. Internal records show Seberg was labeled a target for neutralization. The wording came directly from Bureau memoranda. Agents monitored phone calls, travel, and personal relationships. Reports circulated between field offices. No criminal charges were filed. Surveillance continued regardless. In 1970, the FBI escalated. Officials leaked false information to journalists claiming Seberg was pregnant by a Black Panther leader. Internal documents later confirmed the Bureau knew the claim was untrue at the time of the leak. The stated goal was reputational damage. The story ran widely. Corrections did not. Seberg publicly denied the claim and identified the leak as malicious. The denial received far less attention than the accusation. The damage was immediate. Studio interest dropped. Casting conversations stalled. Some projects ended quietly without explanation. By that point, the effect had shifted to Hollywood. Insurance companies hesitated. Financing became harder to secure. American studios grew cautious. Work increasingly came from Europe instead. Years later, FBI files released through the Freedom of Information Act confirmed the smear campaign. Memoranda detailed intent, coordination, and awareness of falsity. The documents removed doubt about federal involvement. During this period, Seberg experienced significant personal distress. Medical records and interviews confirm repeated hospitalizations and emotional strain linked to the public attacks and professional isolation. By the mid-1970s, her career had narrowed sharply. Leading roles were rare. Visibility faded. No studio announced a ban. None needed to. In 1979, Seberg was found deceased in Paris. French authorities ruled the death a self-inflicted act. At the time, the FBI issued no public acknowledgement of its role. Years later, the Bureau admitted targeting her. No compensation followed. No formal apology was issued during her lifetime. Industry retaliation after lawsuit. Rose McGowan. The silence came disguised as scheduling conflicts. For years, Rose McGowan worked steadily in film and television. Roles arrived. Meetings happened. Then a legal agreement changed the pattern. The shift was not announced. It showed up in canceled auditions and stalled conversations. In 1997, McGowan reached a confidential settlement with a powerful producer after an incident at a hotel during the Sundance Film Festival. The agreement included a non-disclosure clause. No criminal case followed. The settlement itself was lawful and private. What followed was harder to see. Casting interest slowed. Projects discussed with agents failed to move forward. According to later testimony, offers that once felt routine stopped arriving. The industry explanation, when given at all, was vague: timing, fit, direction. Years passed. The pattern held. In 2017, reporting by the New York Times and the New Yorker detailed long-standing allegations against the producer, including the existence of settlement agreements. McGowan spoke publicly after the non-disclosure terms expired. Her account matched details already verified by court documents and reporting. After going public, professional consequences intensified. McGowan stated that meetings were canceled abruptly. Agents distanced themselves. Some executives stopped responding entirely. No formal blacklist existed. The effect mirrored one. Court filings and sworn statements from industry figures later confirmed informal retaliation was common. Emails showed concern about risk and disruption, not performance. The concern traveled faster than any official decision. In 2018, McGowan settled a defamation lawsuit with the same producer. The settlement included no admission of wrongdoing. The legal record closed. The professional fallout did not. McGowan continued working independently, focusing on writing and advocacy. Mainstream studio projects remained limited. Invitations that once came through standard channels no longer did. The retaliation was never written down. No memo circulated. No ban was issued. Access narrowed through consensus and caution. Public support grew. Industry access did not. Several studios later acknowledged systemic failures in handling harassment claims. Policy changes followed. None addressed the careers affected during the years before disclosure. Director locked out of Hollywood, John McTiernan. The calls did not stop because of box office numbers. John McTiernan had directed some of the most successful action films of the late 20th century. Studios trusted him with large budgets. Insurers signed off. Crews followed. That position unraveled after a legal decision that had nothing to do with filmmaking. In the early 2000s, McTiernan became involved in a federal investigation tied to illegal wiretapping conducted by a private investigator hired during a separate legal dispute. McTiernan initially denied knowledge of the surveillance. That denial became the charge. In 2006, he pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI. The offense was not related to violence, finances, or film production. It was a false statement charge. He was sentenced in 2010 to a year in federal prison, later reduced to 8 months. The conviction ended something quietly. After release, McTiernan attempted to return to directing. Projects were proposed, scripts circulated, financing stalled. Insurers declined to bond productions with his name attached. Studios avoided risk. No studio announced a ban. None had to. Industry reporting at the time confirmed the issue was not audience interest. It was liability. A felony conviction made completion bonds difficult. Without insurance, films do not move forward. The system closed around him. McTiernan challenged the conviction repeatedly. Appeals continued for years. Some rulings favored him on procedural grounds. The conviction remained. During this period, no major studio offered a directing contract. Independent producers hesitated. Meetings ended politely. Projects failed during financing stages. The pattern repeated. McTiernan spoke publicly about the exclusion. He noted that other directors with worse box office records continued working. The difference was paperwork, not performance. By the mid-2010 seconds, his absence from the industry was complete. No credits followed. No comeback projects reached production. The separation had become permanent. There was no blacklist memo, no press release. The barrier was administrative. Insurance requirements did the work quietly and efficiently. Network exit after investigations. Sharyl Attkisson. The reporting was not the problem. The friction came after. Sharyl Attkisson was one of the highest-rated investigative correspondents at CBS News. Her work focused on government accountability, including the Benghazi attacks, gun-walking operations tied to the ATF, and failures within federal agencies. The segments drew strong viewership. Internally, they caused tension. According to Attkisson, editorial resistance increased as stories moved closer to air. Questions shifted from sourcing to tone. Segments were delayed. Language was softened. In some cases, she said, stories were discouraged altogether. Emails later released showed disagreements between Attkisson and network leadership over story framing. Editors pushed for caution. She pushed for facts already confirmed. The gap widened. In 2013, Attkisson left CBS News. The departure was described publicly as voluntary. No misconduct was alleged. No performance issues were cited. Ratings were not mentioned. After leaving, Attkisson made a separate claim. She alleged that her personal computers had been remotely accessed without authorization while she was working on sensitive investigations. Independent forensic analysts later confirmed unauthorized intrusions had occurred. The source was not conclusively identified. Congress took notice. Attkisson testified under oath before a House committee about both editorial interference and the computer intrusions. The testimony was entered into the public record. CBS disputed aspects of her account but did not challenge the existence of internal disagreements. Following her departure, Attkisson did not return to a major broadcast network. Despite years of experience and proven ratings performance, offers from legacy television outlets did not materialize. She shifted to independent journalism, publishing and hosting through smaller platforms. Internal network culture was cited by multiple journalists during the same period as increasingly cautious around politically sensitive reporting. Attkisson's case became part of that discussion, though rarely addressed directly on air. CBS did not issue a retraction or apology. Attkisson did not file a wrongful termination lawsuit. The separation remained unresolved in public terms. What followed was not a firing. It was a narrowing. Investigative work continued outside traditional networks. Access to mainstream broadcast infrastructure did not. Corporate deplatforming era. Kanye West. The collapse did not begin with music, it began with contracts. For years, Kanye West operated at the center of fashion, entertainment, and corporate branding. Major companies partnered with him for clothing lines, distribution, and licensing. The relationships were public, lucrative, and tightly written. In October 2022, West posted a series of public statements across social media platforms. Several posts violated platform policies related to hate speech. The response was swift but uneven. Instagram restricted his account first. Twitter followed with a suspension after additional posts. The company cited violations of content rules, not criminal conduct. No legal action followed. Corporate partners moved next. Adidas announced the termination of its partnership, citing clauses tied to public behavior and brand risk. The decision ended one of the most profitable collaborations in the company's history. Other companies followed. Gap pulled products. Balenciaga cut ties. Talent agencies severed representation. Each decision came with a statement. The language was similar: policy, values, responsibility. West remained free to speak publicly. He continued giving interviews. Appearances aired on independent platforms. None of that reversed the corporate retreat. The financial impact was immediate. Forbes revised his net worth within days, reflecting lost licensing revenue. The number changed quickly. The structure behind it mattered more. No government action was involved. No court order was issued. The pressure came from private enforcement of terms agreed to long before the statements were made. Streaming services did not remove his music catalog. Sales continued. Touring remained theoretically possible. The restriction targeted access to infrastructure, not expression. Executives described the situation as risk management. Investors echoed that language. The process unfolded through contracts, not ideology. Each company acted independently, but the effect was cumulative. West criticized the response publicly. He framed it as coordinated suppression. Companies denied coordination. No evidence of collusion was presented. Each action aligned with existing agreements. The case became a reference point for modern deplatforming. Speech remained legal. Participation in corporate systems became conditional. No blacklist memo circulated. No hearing occurred. The separation played out through press releases and policy enforcement. The shift marked a new model of erasure, not enforced by law. Enforced by access.
While millions of people were engrossed in the incredible movies and shows produced by the industry, both in their homes and cinemas, they remained oblivious to the darkness lurking within. Beyond the glamour and talent that Hollywood exuded, there was an underworld that was very different from what was being shown in the media. From rumors of murders to the mistreatment of actors and numerous atrocities that remained buried and far away from the public eyes, Hollywood was proved to be a dark and chaotic place. Well, let's just say nothing is hidden under the sun, because some of these dark and disgusting things that happened in the industry have now been confirmed to be true. The horrific fake film shoot. Anyone who knew about the film studio MGM knew that they were notorious for their dark deeds and would do almost anything to make a scandal disappear, and in order to protect their own. They had the money, the power, and the fixers, but when a biographer, David Sten, began to investigate them, he uncovered some secrets that they kept buried for years. One of these was what happened to a 20-year-old dancer named Patricia Douglas at a 1937 MGM party. According to David Sten, MGM did everything in their power to suppress the scandal when it erupted. They even went as far as hiding evidence and doing all they could to silence the victim, but it seems like her innocence screamed louder than their efforts, and soon enough their deeds were brought to the light. Although MGM was successful at burying the story back in the 1930s, David Sten found some evidence that proved that Patricia's story was real. She wasn't the young wannabe star trying to take down a powerful studio. She was a young, vulnerable girl whose innocence was taken away at an MGM party. In the words of the biographer, I managed to find old newspaper coverage, previously unseen photos, damning studio documentation, long-forgotten legal records, privately shot cinematographic evidence hidden in an MGM film vault, and, most amazing, Patricia Douglas herself. After 65 years of silence, she was finally able to tell her side of the story. According to Patricia Douglas, that incident completely broke her and turned her life upside down. Before that day, she was living a normal life and was already a part of the entertainment industry. Her love for dancing opened her up to opportunities, and at the age of 15, she had already appeared in 2 classics. Her mother was doing well financially, so she didn't need to work. She only took on a few jobs because she enjoyed it and wanted to keep herself busy. This chestnut-haired lady with porcelain skin would later get a casting call on the 2nd of May, 1937 that changed her life. She had no idea that this call was not what she thought it was, and although she hesitated for a while, she finally said yes. Looking back on that day, Patricia regrets saying yes to that call. In her words, "They never mentioned it was for a party, ever. I wouldn't have gone. Oh God, I wouldn't have gone." Although she and hundreds of other girls were invited for this so-called shoot, they would soon discover that this was no film shoot. It was a party that Louis B. Mayer had, organized to celebrate his salesman for a job well done, but this was no ordinary party. It was going to an alcohol-fueled party where all manner of atrocities would happen. The studio had become the greatest studio in Hollywood, and they bagged distribution deals that will keep them on top for several years. This party is their way of celebrating. Patricia Douglas was one out of the 120 young female dancers that received the casting call. It will surprise you to know that a well-known casting director made these calls so the girls had no idea what was about to happen. They were supposed to be dressed in fitted cowgirl outfits, and as soon as they got to the studio, they were transported to an unknown location for this party. On getting there, Patricia saw over 300 men partying, smoking, and taking all kinds of substances. She didn't see cameras, a crew, or lights. Patricia immediately started to feel uncomfortable, as she had never had any sexual encounter before. She certainly didn't want to be in such a wild party. Sadly, there was no way any of the girls could escape. As the party went on, a particular salesman called David Rose began to admire Patricia. He pretended to want to teach her a dance step, and before she knew it, he and other friends held her down and poured liquor down her throat. Soon enough, Patricia began to feel sick, and when she went outside to get some air, David Ross dragged her to the parking lot and took advantage of her in one of the cars. Interestingly, a parking attendant witnessed the whole thing, but he later denied. Patricia did not keep quiet about what happened. She told her mother about it, and they were able to hire an attorney, but every legal step she took proved futile. No one believed her. One can only imagine how many other girls went through a similar experience that night. Patricia, the only person who was bold enough to speak up, was shut down and called a liar by MGM. With their connections, money, and power, they were able to shut the case down. Among the evidence that was later found was a letter from publisher William Randolph Hearst to Louis B. Mayer saying, "Shut this down. Make her stop." Do you realize how damaging this is to the whole movie picture industry? With the help of biographer David Sten, she was able to document what happened to her in the documentary titled Girl 27 before she passed on. The director with weird sexual preferences. After several decades of whining, dining, and having wild sexual encounters with celebrities, Scotty Bowers published a book titled Full Service: My Adventures in Hollywood and the Secret Sex Lives of the Stars. Bowers, who was said to have been a go-to guy for setting up all manner of trysts for some of Hollywood's most famous stars, decided to pen down all the escapes that these stars were involved in. While some of his celebrity clients were closeted gays and lesbian, other clients liked things that were weird and freaky. The revelations she made about Charles Laughton left everyone in shock. To the rest of the world, Charles Laughton was a brilliant director. He was a highly respected and influential figure in the film industry. Charles Laughton was an English stage and film actor as well as a director. Truth be told, his talent was recognized early in his career, and he gained fame for his versatility as an actor. He excelled in portraying a wide range of characters, from dramatic to comedic roles. Most people who were entertained by his works revered him. Some of his most notable performances include his portrayal of the hunchbacked bell ringer Quasimodo in The Hunchback of Notre Dame in 1939, Captain Bligh in Mutiny on the Bounty in 1935, and his chilling role as the tyrannical barrister in Witness for the Prosecution in 1957. Everyone saw him as a talented man who was laser-focused on his career, but no one knew the secrets he was keeping from the world. In addition to his acting prowess, Laughton also ventured into directing, where he demonstrated a keen eye for storytelling and visual composition. His directorial debut was with the film The Night of the Hunter in 1955, which has since been recognized as a classic of American cinema despite its initial commercial failure. Laughton's impact on the film industry was profound, and he was highly respected by his peers. Throughout his career, he received numerous accolades, including an Academy Award for Best Actor for his role in The Private Life of Henry VIII in 1933. Apparently, when he was achieving all these, he was busy behind closed doors doing things that would have shocked his fans. According to Bowers, Charles's secret sexual activities were very different from that of his celebrity friends. He said Charles was into scat proclivities. Bowers revealed that Charles liked it when his sexual partners released on him, and on some occasions, he spread these substances on a sandwich and ate it. Bowers didn't judge this act, as he was an open-minded person who believed that people should do whatever they wanted, and in his words, "The practice certainly didn't turn me on, but it was patently clear that it was regarded as a normal and acceptable part of sexual activity by its devotees, with Charles Laughton being one of them and Ty Power another. So who was I to judge? To each his own." Who would have thought that this talented man was involved in such sexual acts behind closed doors? Although there were already rumors about what he was involved in, Bowers' book confirmed the rumors and went into detail about what this celebrated director was doing behind closed doors. Charlie Chaplin and underage girls. He was a highly successful actor who was well respected in the industry. He was known to have inspired many other actors, but when rumors began to circulate about his preference in women, a lot of people lost respect for him. They simply couldn't believe it. Charlie Chaplin, a towering figure in the world of comedy, mesmerized audiences with his timeless humor and poignant performances on the silver screen. Yet, behind the laughter, his personal life was shrouded in controversy, particularly concerning his romantic entanglements. Soon enough, his secret preferences when it came to women became a subject of both fascination and scrutiny. Truth be told, Chaplin's predilection for marrying significantly younger women was evident throughout his life. His first marriage to 16-year-old Mildred Harris at the age of 29 set a pattern that would repeat itself. Despite the considerable age gap, Chaplin seemed drawn to youthful exuberance and innocence. However, his marriages were not devoid of tumult. Harris and Chaplin's union dissolved after 2 years. It would surprise you to know that he went on to date and marry yet another girl that was younger than him. The pattern persisted with Chaplin's subsequent marriages. At 35, he wed 16-year-old Lita Grey, embarking on a controversial journey that raised eyebrows even in the permissive circles of Hollywood. Their marriage was mired in scandal, with Grey alleging that she was coerced into matrimony due to her pregnancy with Chaplin's child. The marriage ultimately ended in a highly publicized divorce, amplifying the whispers surrounding Chaplin's romantic exploits. People found it difficult to reconcile the man he was in Hollywood to the man that was getting married to underage girls. In 1932, Chaplin found himself entangled with 22-year-old Paulette Goddard, who later revealed that she had initially misrepresented her age, claiming to be 17 when they first met. Despite the revelation, Chaplin pursued the relationship, culminating in marriage when Goddard was 26 and he was 47. Their union endured for 6 years, characterized by both moments of bliss and strain, emblematic of Chaplin's tumultuous romantic life. However, it was Chaplin's fourth and final marriage that garnered the most attention and controversy. At the age of 54, he wed 18-year-old Una O'Neill, the daughter of esteemed playwright Eugene O'Neill. This union, though met with incredulity and raised eyebrows, endured the test of time, remaining intact until Chaplin's passing. O'Neill's youthfulness and Chaplin's status as a renowned artist of his era magnified the intrigue surrounding their relationship. Chaplin's preference for younger women, coupled with the circumstances of his marriages, fueled speculation and gossip within the industry. While some viewed his actions as indicative of a romantic spirit unbound by societal norms, others condemned his behavior as exploitative and predatory. The allegations against Chaplin ranged from accusations of manipulation to outright abuse, with his choices seemingly confirming the suspicions harbored by his detractors. There were even rumors that he fled to a different country at a certain point in time in order to avoid certain statutory laws. It seemed like he couldn't help himself, but most people who heard about it were disappointed. They couldn't believe that such a respected man was involved in such. However, despite the condemnation he got from others, he didn't hide the fact that he preferred underage girls. She adopted her own child. Before he became a Hollywood star, it was said that Clark Gable was friends with some questionable people. Perhaps this was why he reached out to a fixer when he discovered that he got a young actress pregnant. What was done after that forever traumatized the child and made her grow up believing that she didn't have parents. If anyone was the epitome of Hollywood masculinity, it was Clark Gable. This charming leading man made hearts swoon across the globe. He was the kind of guy you'd imagine tipping his hat as he sauntered into a room exuding confidence. And in 1934, he was smack dab in the middle of one heck of a scandal that involved a young actress named Loretta Young. She was a rising starlet with doe eyes and a smile that could light up the silver screen. At just 22, she was already making waves in Hollywood, capturing hearts with her talent and beauty. But little did anyone know she was about to become entangled in a scandalous affair with none other than the dashing Clark Gable. A 34-year-old Gable, already married, diving headfirst into a clandestine romance with the much younger Loretta Young. Their flirtation soon turned into a scandalous affair, and to complicate matters further, Young became pregnant. It was the kind of situation that could spell disaster for both their careers and reputations. Some reports claim that Gable actually forced himself on the actress and that the sexual activities between them were not consensual. When Clarke Gable realized how messy the situation was, he reached out to the one person that could fix it, Eddie Mannix, a fixer with connections deep in the heart of Hollywood. He wasn't just any friend to Gable, he was the kind of friend who knew how to clean up messes, no matter how messy they were. Mannix's solution was as ingenious as it was morally dubious. He orchestrated a plan for Young to fake adopt her own child, effectively concealing the scandal of being an unwed mother. It was a move straight out of the Hollywood playbook. Young, determined to protect her child from judgment, went along with Mannix's plan, confiding only in the inner circles of Hollywood's elite. And so Judy, as she would later be named, grew up believing that Loretta Young adopted her. But as Judy grew older, the truth became harder to conceal. It was difficult to ignore the resemblance between Judy and Clarke Gable. Soon enough, rumors began to spread, and people started asking questions. Years passed, but secrets have a way of coming to light. On Judy's wedding day, she confronted her mother, demanding to know the truth, and in a moment filled with emotions and regret, Young finally revealed the truth to her daughter. Judy herself later confirmed the truth in her autobiography, Uncommon Knowledge, laying bare the secrets that had been buried for so long. In the end, Eddie Mannix's solution may have spared his friend Clarke Gable from immediate scandal, but it couldn't shield him from the consequences of his actions forever. This decision certainly did not spare Judy from the trauma of growing up without parents. Why Mary Nolan had 15 abdominal surgeries. If you have ever heard about Hollywood fixers, then the name Eddie Mannix certainly rings a bell. He was the one who was responsible for making most of MGM Studios' scandals disappear. Whenever something occurred and it could damage the image of the studio, he would go behind the scenes and clean up the mess before the public got to know about it. However, in July 1935, he was not doing someone else's dirty laundry. The scandal was right at his doorstep. His former lover had publicly accused him of maltreating her and ruining her life. He denied all the allegations, but when her friends and family began to speak up about what he did to her, things got a little complicated and he had to find a solution and find it fast. Mary Nolan, Mannix's ex-lover, was a well-known actress in the 1920s. Truth be told, life and career were marked by both successes and personal struggles. Nolan began her career as a Ziegfeld Follies showgirl before transitioning to silent films. She quickly gained attention for her striking beauty and talent on screen. Mary Nolan, initially performing under the name Imogen Robertson in Germany, began her film career there with Verborgene Gluten in 1925, followed by Die Feuertanzerin, which garnered her favorable reviews and a contract offer from Universum Film AG. She worked steadily in Germany until 1927, declining offers from Hollywood producers until Joseph M. Schenck of United Artists convinced her to return to the United States. Upon her return, Nolan faced scrutiny from the press and women's groups due to her past scandal, prompting United Artists to suggest a name change to Mary Nolan. She made 2 films with United Artists before joining Universal Pictures in August 1927, where she received good reviews for her role in Good Morning Judge. In the same year, she was said to have been involved in a relationship with Eddie Mannix, who allegedly used his connections to help boost her career. Mannix was married at the time, so they kept their affair a secret for as long as they could. Nolan's career received a significant boost when she was loaned to Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer for West of Zanzibar in 1928, starring alongside Lon Chaney and Lionel Barrymore. The film was a hit, as was her subsequent loan to MGM for Desert Nights in 1929, opposite John Gilbert, further solidifying her status in Hollywood. However, Mannix and Nolan's affair ended abruptly in 1929. While no one knows for sure why the affair ended, it was said that the actress became an emotional wreck in the following years. Her career began to decline rapidly, and she was said to have displayed erratic behavior on sets. After a long battle with substance abuse and financial problems, her life was in shambles. It was clear that there was a lot of pain buried deep within her, but no one knew what was causing it. It was in 1935 that Mary Nolan decided to open up about what she went through in the hands of Eddie Mannix. Initially, it seemed like a publicity stunt by a desperate actress, but as time went on, people began to see that her claims were not far-fetched from what others had accused Mannix of. According to her, she lived with him in the Ambassador Hotel from the year 1927 to 1931, and they were actively in an affair at the time. As time went on, he began to treat her badly and would even go as far as hitting her and inflicting wounds on her body. She also claimed that he was responsible for the decline of her career and that he allegedly used his influence to ruin her career at a certain point. However, the most shocking part of her story was on the day he attacked her and hit her abdominal area so badly that she had to be hospitalized. The damages he caused were so severe that she had to undergo over 15 surgeries in order to survive. After she sued him, he denied all she had said and claimed that she was using the story to gain fame and sympathy from the public. But despite his claims, Mary Nolan had a solid army of witnesses behind her. Her friends and family revealed he maltreated her during the time that they were together. He also allegedly forced her to terminate multiple pregnancies, and there were times when she had to go on set with bruises because of how badly he hit her. As expected, Mannix did everything in his power to bury the story. It was said that he sent a private detective to her house to threaten her, and this was what made her drop the lawsuit. While there was no concrete evidence, anyone who heard about Mannix's heinous crimes knew that there was at least an atom in Mary's story. In the end, Mannix won and was able to bury a story that could have potentially ruined his image and career.
They played legends on screen and monsters off it. You didn't just watch them, you believed in them, and that's exactly how they got away with it. Clark Gable's secret child. He was Hollywood's king in the 1930s. Fans adored him as a rugged hero and swooned over his charm in hits like It Happened One Night, but behind his handsome smile was a dark secret. In 1935, while filming Call of the Wild, Gable had an affair with co-star Loretta Young. Both stars knew that public knowledge of their relationship would ruin their careers, so they hid everything carefully. Their secret took a serious turn when Young discovered she was pregnant. Afraid of the scandal, she made a heartbreaking choice. She vanished from Hollywood, traveled abroad, and quietly had a baby girl named Judy Lewis. Then, to keep appearances intact, Young placed Judy in an orphanage temporarily. Months later, she publicly adopted her own daughter, pretending Judy was an orphan child she generously rescued. The studios loved this story because it made Young look noble. Meanwhile, Gable completely turned his back. According to Judy Lewis's 1994 memoir, Uncommon Knowledge, Gable refused to acknowledge her as his child. She grew up confused about why she looked so much like a movie star she barely knew. Judy spent decades dealing with rumors and whispers about her true parentage. When Judy confronted her mother in adulthood, Young finally admitted the truth, but begged Judy to stay silent. Gable, protected by the powerful MGM studio, was never publicly exposed in his lifetime. Fans kept idolizing him, never imagining he abandoned his own daughter. Only after Gable died did the secret begin unraveling. Young confirmed the story privately before her death, and Judy bravely spoke out. Fans felt betrayed. Hollywood's leading man had tricked everyone with a flawless image while leaving his own daughter hidden in the shadows. Joan Crawford's cruel parenting. In the 1940s, Crawford was one of the biggest stars in Hollywood. She won an Oscar for Mildred Pierce in 1945 and was seen as beautiful, talented, and successful. Magazines showed her smiling with her adopted children, looking like the perfect mom. Fans believed she was kind and loving, but the truth at home was very different. In 1978, Crawford's daughter Christina wrote a book called Mommy Dearest. In it, she told painful stories about how her mother treated her. Christina said she was often hit and punished, even for small things. One night, Crawford found wire hangers in Christina's closet. She became furious, pulled Christina out of bed, and beat her while screaming. Christina said things like this happened often, not just once. The abuse wasn't just physical. Crawford often embarrassed Christina on purpose. If she didn't finish dinner or spoke out of turn, she might be forced to scrub the floors for hours. Sometimes she was locked in a closet or not given food. Years later, people who worked in the house said they saw this happen too. One time, Crawford got so angry she grabbed scissors and cut Christina's hair in a messy way. Christina had to go to school looking that way, and kids made fun of her. It was clear the punishment was meant to shame her. For many years, no one outside the home knew the truth. People in Hollywood later said they heard stories but stayed quiet to protect Crawford's career. When Mommy Dearest was published, many fans were shocked. Crawford denied everything, saying Christina was lying to hurt her. But Christina's story didn't stand alone. Witnesses backed her up, and the details were hard to ignore. The woman fans thought was a loving mother was actually harsh and cruel behind closed doors. Joan Crawford had fooled the world with a fake image, and no one knew the truth until it was too late. Bing Crosby's harsh discipline. He was America's favorite crooner in the 1940s. He charmed fans with his easy smile and soothing voice in hit films like Going My Way, 1944. He wasn't just a star. Crosby represented the ideal family man. Newspapers printed photos of Crosby relaxing at home, laughing warmly with his 4 sons. Fans admired him as the perfect father figure. But behind closed doors, Crosby's real parenting style was shockingly different. In 1983, Crosby's eldest son, Gary, released a memoir titled Going My Own Way. In it, Gary revealed that Crosby's cheerful public image hid a strict and abusive father. Gary described routine physical punishments he and his brothers endured throughout their childhood. Small mistakes like talking back or poor grades often resulted in brutal discipline. Crosby's punishments included beatings with a belt studded with metal, leaving bruises and scars. Gary recalled these incidents vividly, describing how he and his brothers would tremble when their father returned home, fearful of his unpredictable temper. These punishments weren't rare events. Gary explained that such harsh discipline was a constant threat in the Crosby household. Crosby demanded absolute obedience from his sons, enforcing discipline through fear. Gary and his brothers lived in constant anxiety, trying desperately to avoid angering their famous father. Bing Crosby never publicly acknowledged his violent discipline methods. His warm, friendly persona remained intact, shielded by studios and publicists who carefully protected his reputation. Even Crosby's closest Hollywood colleagues remained unaware, or chose to ignore, the harsh realities of his private life. Gary's memoir stunned Crosby's loyal fans, who found it almost impossible to reconcile the gentle star they loved with the brutal father Gary described. Some fans and friends initially accused Gary of exaggerating or lying for publicity. But soon, his younger brother Philip publicly confirmed Gary's accounts, stating that the memoir accurately described their difficult childhood experiences. The public reaction to these revelations was mixed. While many fans expressed shock and disappointment, others simply refused to accept them. Crosby's carefully constructed image as America's friendly, easygoing father figure proved difficult for fans to abandon. Hedy Lamarr's Sticky Fingers. In the 1940s, Hedy Lamarr was one of the biggest stars in Hollywood. People called her the most beautiful woman in films. She acted in popular movies like Algiers and Samson and Delilah. Fans saw her as classy, elegant, and perfect. But behind the glamour, Lamarr had a secret. She couldn't stop stealing. According to the biography, Hedy Lamarr, the Most Beautiful Woman in Film, 2010, Lamarr often took things from movie sets without asking. At first it was small stuff like necklaces, scarves, or makeup, but over time bigger and more expensive things started disappearing, like fancy dresses, jewelry, and even props from the sets. Crew members noticed and complained, but the studio didn't want the public to know. Instead, they covered it up and kept quiet. The studio, MGM, wanted to protect Lamarr's image. She was one of their biggest stars, and they didn't want fans thinking anything bad about her. So they paid for the missing items and told employees not to say anything. Behind the scenes, though, people were frustrated and confused about why Lamarr kept taking things. Her habit didn't stop when she left Hollywood. In 1966, years after her movie career slowed down, Lamarr got caught shoplifting in a Los Angeles department store. store security found stolen items hidden in her purse. When news broke, it shocked fans across the country. Her mugshot was printed in newspapers, and people couldn't believe that the beautiful star had been arrested for stealing. Lamarr said she just forgot to pay, but many didn't believe that. Fans were confused. How could someone rich and famous steal something she could easily afford? But people who had worked with her weren't surprised. They had seen the signs long before. The arrest ruined her reputation. The image of Hedy Lamarr as a flawless beauty faded quickly. People started to see the real story, one the studios had hidden for years. For decades, fans believed Lamarr was perfect, but her secret habit told a different story. Behind the fancy dresses and movie star smile was a person struggling with something she couldn't control. And for years, Hollywood helped her keep it hidden. Spencer Tracy's double life. He was Hollywood's trusted moral hero in the 1940s. Known for films like Boys Town and Woman of the Year, he portrayed honesty, loyalty, and integrity on screen. Fans admired Tracy's calm strength and moral clarity, but starting in 1941, Tracy secretly began living a double life that studios carefully concealed. While filming Woman of the Year in 1941, Tracy met actress Katharine Hepburn. Despite being married to Louise Tracy, he quickly started an intense affair with Hepburn that would last almost 3 decades. Tracy never divorced Louise, partly because of his strict Catholic beliefs. Instead, he chose secrecy, leaving Hepburn hidden in the shadows of his public image. According to Katharine Hepburn's 1991 memoir, Me, Stories of My Life, she and Tracy maintained their secret by rarely appearing together in public. Studios cooperated fully, carefully, scheduling, filming, and events so Tracy could appear devoted to his wife and family. Hepburn accepted this arrangement, deeply in love with Tracy, who privately promised her he would never leave Louise. Fans remained unaware. Tracy's movies continued showing him as a devoted, honest family man. MGM, eager to preserve his clean reputation, expertly shielded Tracy from scandals. Even the press stayed quiet, despite rumors circulating around Hollywood. Louise Tracy herself reportedly knew of the affair but chose silence rather than face public humiliation. She remained Tracy's wife in name, quietly enduring his betrayal. Meanwhile, Tracy and Hepburn's relationship became Hollywood's open secret, known by insiders but concealed from the public eye. After Tracy's death in 1967, Hepburn finally spoke openly about their decades-long romance, confirming what many had whispered about. Fans felt betrayed, realizing their beloved star had deliberately deceived them. The devoted family man image that Tracy projected had been carefully constructed by studios eager to maintain his wholesome appeal. Ultimately, Spencer Tracy's double life fooled millions. Audiences trusted him implicitly, believing his films mirrored his true nature. In reality, Tracy was willing to deceive fans, friends, and even his family to protect his public image. The affair exposed the hidden side of a star whose honesty and morality existed solely on screen. Judy Garland's studio exploitation. In 1939, Judy became one of the most loved stars in Hollywood. She was only 16 when she played Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. People everywhere adored her voice, her smile, and her sweet personality. To fans, Judy looked like a happy and healthy teenager. But behind the scenes, her life was anything but happy. The studio that managed Judy, MGM, wanted her to stay young and thin. They were afraid she might gain weight, so they started giving her pills. During the day, they gave her drugs called amphetamines to keep her thin and full of energy. At night, they gave her sleeping pills to help her rest. Judy later said this happened often and that she had no choice. These drugs made her sick, tired, and dependent. By the early 1940s, Judy was already addicted to the pills. On movie sets, she was shaky and confused. She forgot lines, cried often, and couldn't concentrate. Instead of helping her, the studio blamed her. They called her difficult and said she was causing problems. But it was the studio's treatment that caused her to break down. One example happened in 1944 during the filming of Meet Me in St. Louis. Judy collapsed on set. She was shaking, dizzy, and barely able to speak, but the studio didn't stop filming. They gave her more pills and told her to keep working. Her health didn't matter. They only cared about the movie. In a 1967 interview, Judy spoke out. She said MGM used her and then threw her away. Her teen years were full of stress, pressure, and pain. For the rest of her life, Judy struggled with addiction and sadness, all because of how she was treated when she was young. At the time, fans didn't know any of this. They thought Judy was just naturally joyful and fun. They didn't know the studios had forced her into a dangerous cycle. People blamed her for her problems without understanding the truth. Cary Grant's marital control. He was one of the most famous actors in the 1930s and 1940s. He starred in movies like The Philadelphia Story and His Girl, Friday. People loved his charm, his smile, and his funny, smart way of speaking. Fans thought he was not just a great actor, but also a kind and caring person in real life. But the truth about his private life told a different story. In 1934, Grant married an actress named Virginia Cherrill. At first, it seemed like a perfect match, but things went bad quickly. According to court papers and books written about them, Cherrill said Grant was very controlling. He told her where she could go, who she could see, and even what clothes to wear. She said his jealousy made her unhappy. After just 1 year, she asked for a divorce, saying his behavior was cruel. In 1942, Grant married again, this time to a rich woman named Barbara Hutton. Their wedding was big news, and newspapers called them a glamorous couple. But behind the scenes, Grant acted the same way. He tried to control Hutton's friends, how she spent her time, and even how she used her own money. After 3 years, Hutton also divorced him, saying life with Grant had become too hard. The public didn't know any of this at the time. Hollywood studios made sure Grant's private life looked perfect. They showed him as a loving husband and a true gentleman. Fans had no idea he treated his wives poorly. Years later, letters and interviews came out that showed why Grant acted this way. People close to him said he was deeply insecure and needed to be in control. Still, Grant never admitted he had done anything wrong. He kept his polished image until the day he died in 1986. For many years, fans believed Cary Grant was just like the kind characters he played in movies, but his real-life actions were very different. Behind the charm and good looks was a man who tried to control the people closest to him and fooled the world while doing it. Bette Davis's toxic feuds. She was one of Hollywood's biggest stars in the 1930s. She was known for playing bold and strong women in movies like Jezebel, 1938. Fans loved her confidence and called her a fearless actress who didn't back down. Many believed she was a trailblazer who stood up for herself in a male-dominated industry. But behind the scenes, Davis wasn't just strong. She was often cruel to the people she worked with. In 1939, Davis starred in The Old Maid with another actress, Miriam Hopkins. The set quickly became stressful. According to people who worked on the film, Davis refused to rehearse important scenes with Hopkins. She would talk loudly about how bad Hopkins' acting was, embarrassing her in front of the crew. Crew members said Davis made it hard for Hopkins to do her job. That same year, Davis starred with Errol Flynn in The Private Lives of Elizabeth and Essex. During filming, Davis mocked Flynn's acting and made fun of him in front of others. Flynn later said that working with her was exhausting and that she made scenes more difficult on purpose. Studio workers confirmed that Davis often bullied co-stars she didn't like. Even with all this bad behavior, the studios didn't punish Davis. She was making them a lot of money, so they looked the other way. Fans only saw her glamorous public image and had no idea what she was like behind the scenes. Years later, other actors started speaking out. Olivia De Havilland, who acted with Davis several times, said Davis was jealous, competitive, and sometimes mean. Their relationship was difficult, even though fans thought they were close. At first, many fans didn't believe the stories. They thought Davis was just strong and misunderstood. But more and more stories came out in books and interviews, showing a pattern of toxic behavior. Bette Davis was famous for being bold and fearless, but that wasn't the whole truth. She often hurt others to stay on top. The strong woman fans admired had a dark side, one that Hollywood worked hard to keep hidden for years. Her power came with a price, and many of her co-stars paid it. Humphrey Bogart's drunken rages. In the 1940s, Bogart was the face of cool. The Maltese Falcon, Casablanca, and To Have and Have Not turned him into a tough guy legend. Audiences saw him as sharp, fearless, and in control. But off-screen, Bogart's drinking problem was no secret among those who worked with him. It often led to verbal abuse and chaos on set. Bogart's heavy drinking became especially disruptive during the making of The African Queen in 1951, though the pattern started earlier. According to Lauren Bacall's memoir and crew accounts, Bogart would arrive late, hungover, or already drunk. While filming, he frequently argued with crew members and lashed out at co-stars, his temper made worse by alcohol. Some days, production would stall entirely while waiting for him to sober up. Though Bacall loved Bogart, she didn't hide his faults. In her memoir, By Myself, she recalled moments when Bogart's drinking turned him sour and difficult. He became irritable, moody, and paranoid, especially when he felt challenged. Crew members from multiple films reported being cursed at, berated, or dismissed mid-scene. But studios rarely intervened. Bogart was too bankable. Producers often adjusted schedules to work around Bogart's habits. They avoided confrontation and told others to let bogey be bogey. Directors were warned not to push him too hard when he'd been drinking, or they'd risk shutting down the entire shoot. Publicly, none of this made the papers. Bogart's image as the rugged, dependable anti-hero remained intact. The press loved him, and gossip columns avoided mentioning his outbursts. Fans never saw the difficult man behind the swagger. They only saw the smooth talker who lit cigarettes with one hand and delivered perfect lines with the other. It wasn't until years after his death in 1957 that the full scope of Bogart's behavior came out. Memoirs, biographies, and studio records confirmed the alcohol-fueled tirades and on-set volatility. Fans were stunned. The actor they had admired for calm control and sharp wit had often been the most unpredictable person in the room. Humphrey Bogart's tough guy image sold millions of tickets, but the real Bogart, hidden behind the screen, was a man battling his own demons and taking that struggle out on everyone around him. Lana Turner's mob entanglement. She was pure Hollywood glamour. In the 1950s, she was one of the most photographed women in the world, with roles in hits like Peyton Place and The Postman Always Rings Twice. Fans adored her as a romantic icon. But in 1958, Turner's spotless image shattered when her private life collided with organized crime and ended in bloodshed. In 1957, Turner began dating Johnny Stompanato, a bodyguard and known enforcer for the Los Angeles mob. FBI files and court records confirmed that Stompanato had ties to gangster Mickey Cohen's crime syndicate. Turner's friends and family knew he was dangerous, but she stayed with him anyway. Their relationship quickly turned violent. Stompanato was controlling and abusive, often threatening Turner during arguments, sometimes even on film sets. By early 1958, things had spiraled. According to Turner's testimony and police reports, Stompanato became increasingly possessive and physically aggressive. On the 4th of April, 1958, during a violent confrontation at Turner's Beverly Hills home, her 14-year-old daughter, Cheryl Crane, grabbed a kitchen knife and fatally stabbed Stompanato in what she claimed was an act of self-defense. The story exploded in the press. Newspapers ran photos of Turner crying on the witness stand during Cheryl's court hearing. The public was stunned. The glamorous movie star was suddenly at the center of a homicide case involving the mob, abuse, and her own teenage daughter. The court ultimately ruled the stabbing justifiable homicide. Cheryl was not charged, and Turner returned to the screen. But her image never fully recovered. Though she earned praise for her emotional courtroom testimony, many questioned why she had stayed with a known criminal and exposed her daughter to such danger. Hollywood tried to shift the focus back to Turner's beauty and talent, but the truth had already been revealed. Lana Turner had lived in a world far darker than her screen roles suggested. The woman audiences saw as graceful and refined had willingly entered a violent relationship with a man she knew was dangerous. For years, fans believed Turner's life was a fairy tale. The Stompanato scandal showed it was anything but. Her public image had fooled the world until it all unraveled in a single bloody night. Everyone loves to blame cancel culture, but some of these people should have been canceled a long time ago. You weren't overreacting. You were underinformed. Here are 10 disgusting celebrities the industry helped you fall for. Sean Diddy Combs' legal battles. He was once the king of hip-hop. Big hits, flashy lifestyle, and a massive fan base. But behind the fame, a string of serious accusations. In 2017, his personal chef said he harassed her and then fired her when she spoke up. They settled the case in 2019, no details shared. Fast forward to 2023. His ex-girlfriend Cassie filed a lawsuit claiming years of abuse. She said he hurt her, trafficked her, and even blew up Kid Cudi's car. That case also settled fast. Then came the bombshell. In May 2024, CNN dropped a hotel video from 2016. It showed Diddy grabbing and attacking Cassie. You could hear the internet gasp. Diddy responded with an apology, calling his actions inexcusable. But it didn't stop there. By September 2024, he was arrested on serious federal charges, including trafficking-related offenses, organized criminal activity, and unlawful transportation. He said he wasn't guilty and stayed locked up in Brooklyn, no bail. A month later, things exploded. Reports said over 100 people, men, women, even kids, were getting ready to file lawsuits against him. The number? Around 120. Some were underage. It was chaos. In March 2025, another charge dropped, forced labor. He was accused of making people work crazy hours using fear and pressure. Again, he said he was innocent. James Franco's hidden history. He always had a certain charm. He played weird, artsy characters, joked around in interviews, and came off as the cool, harmless guy. But behind that laid-back image was a mess the public didn't see until 2018. That year, 5 women accused him of misconduct. 2 were former students at his acting school, Studio 4, which he ran in Los Angeles and New York. They said Franco used his power to push young actresses into uncomfortable and explicit scenes. Some claimed he removed safety guards during nude scenes and blurred the line between acting and manipulation. Franco denied everything. He told Stephen Colbert on The Late Show that the claims were not accurate. But the internet wasn't convinced, and his silence on social media didn't help. By 2019, 2 women filed a lawsuit. They accused him of exploiting students under the pretense of education. According to court documents, students were led to believe they had a shot at roles in Franco's films if they agreed to intense scenes. Many said they felt pressured, especially in his so-called master class. In 2021, Franco settled the lawsuit for $2.2 million. He didn't admit guilt, but he did later speak out. On a podcast, he said he had struggled with compulsive behavior and acknowledged having inappropriate relationships with students. He called it wrong, but claimed it wasn't illegal. One of the most telling signs came from Seth Rogen. He and Franco were longtime collaborators, but in interviews, Rogen confirmed he hadn't worked with Franco in years and didn't plan to again. No shade, just a clean break. Since then, Franco's disappeared from the spotlight. He's taken on small indie projects, but nothing major. Most of Hollywood has kept its distance. Noel Clarke's collapse. In the UK, he was everywhere. He acted, directed, produced, and even won a BAFTA for Outstanding British Contribution to Cinema in 2021. But the celebration didn't last. Just weeks after that award, The Guardian published a massive investigation, and everything changed. 20 women came forward. They accused Clarke of inappropriate conduct, unwanted physical contact, intimidation, and demeaning language. Some said he secretly recorded audition scenes that involved sensitive content. Others claimed he'd touched them without consent or made cruel comments during shoots. Most of these women had worked with him professionally, on set, in casting, or through his company, Unstoppable Entertainment. Clarke denied everything. He said he never broke the law and never acted inappropriately. But the accusations weren't vague. They came with names, dates, and detailed stories. The Guardian stood by the reporting, and BAFTA quickly suspended his award. ITV pulled the final episode of Viewpoint, his latest drama, right before it aired. Sky, who had long worked with him, cut ties immediately. What followed was a total shutdown of Clarke's career. Projects vanished. Offers dried up. His name, once linked to representation and success, became toxic in the industry. In April 2025, Clarke tried to fight back. He sued The Guardian for defamation. He said the article ruined his life and claimed the accusations were false and unfair. But the journalist, Lucy Osborne, testified that every story was vetted and the piece was never personal. She said it was about giving people a voice. The court hasn't ruled yet, but the damage is done. Clarke hasn't booked a major role in years. His production company stopped operating. Even with the lawsuit, there's been no public comeback, no press tour, no support from the film world. What started as a career on fire crashed hard. And the worst part? It took 20 women stepping forward for anyone to actually listen. Morgan Wallen's never-ending apologies. He went from country music's rising star to public controversy machine, and it started long before most fans noticed. In May 2020, he was arrested in Nashville outside a bar. Charges: public intoxication and disorderly conduct. Nothing career-ending, but not a good look. Months later, he blew his shot at Saturday Night Live after video surfaced of him partying maskless during COVID restrictions. The show canceled his appearance just days before airtime. Then came February 2021. TMZ released home security footage showing Wallen yelling a racial slur after a night out. The backlash was immediate. Radio stations dropped him. His label suspended his contract. The Academy of Country Music barred him from that year's awards. He apologized publicly and promised to do better, but the damage was real. Despite the fallout, Wallen's album sales actually spiked. Some fans claimed cancel culture had gone too far. Others saw it differently, a clear example of someone being rewarded for bad behavior. Either way, Wallen stayed mostly quiet, reappearing months later in interviews saying he'd been doing a lot of soul-searching. But things got weird again. In October 2023, he was seen storming off stage mid-concert without explanation, and in April 2025, SNL brought him back, but not for long. He exited the building hours before the show, leaving producers scrambling. No official reason was given. Social media lit up with fan theories and jokes, but NBC stayed silent. Behind the scenes, sources claim Wallen has become difficult to work with. Others say he just isn't interested in the spotlight anymore. Either way, the pattern keeps repeating. Do something reckless, apologize, go quiet, then resurface like nothing happened. R. Kelly's crimes in plain sight. He was once untouchable. He ruled the charts, sold out arenas, and had megastars lining up to work with him. But behind the fame, a long, disturbing trail that the industry ignored for years. The first red flag? In 1994, Kelly, then 27, secretly married 15-year-old Aaliyah. Her age was faked on the marriage certificate. The union was annulled, but questions started swirling. In 2002, a video allegedly showing Kelly with an underage girl surfaced. He was charged with possessing illegal material involving a minor, but pleaded not guilty. The trial dragged on for years, and in 2008, he was acquitted. That same year, he released more music. Business as usual. In 2017, things exploded again. BuzzFeed published a report accusing Kelly of running a cult, controlling young women and cutting them off from their families. His team denied it. But former associates started speaking out. They described rules, punishments, and disturbing levels of control. In 2019, the docuseries Surviving R. Kelly aired on Lifetime. It featured survivors, parents, and former employees detailing years of abuse. The reaction was massive. Protests broke out. Artists pulled collaborations. Radio stations dropped his music. Finally, people started listening. That same year, Kelly was arrested on multiple federal charges, including organized criminal activity and trafficking-related offenses. The details were chilling: coercion, intimidation, underage victims, and years of cover-ups. In 2021, he was convicted on all counts in New York. In 2022, he was sentenced to 30 years in prison. A separate Chicago trial in 2023 led to another 20-year sentence, 19 of which would be served at the same time. He's locked up for decades. Chris Brown's pattern of violence. His reputation never fully recovered after 2009, and that's because the problems didn't stop there. In February 2009, photos leaked of Rihanna's injuries after Brown assaulted her the night before the Grammys. The images were everywhere. Public opinion turned fast. Brown was arrested and later pled guilty to felony assault. He got probation, community labor, and court-ordered anger management. You'd think that would be rock bottom. It wasn't. In 2011, he allegedly smashed a window at Good Morning America after being asked about the Rihanna incident. The glass shattered near the street, but no charges were filed. His team blamed the media. He blamed haters. Then came the nightclub fights, parking lot scuffles, and assault allegations, year after year. In 2013, he punched a man outside a D.C. hotel. He was arrested and spent time in jail after being kicked out of rehab for anger issues. In 2016, a woman accused him of threatening her with a gun at his home. Police arrived with helicopters and a search warrant. Brown live-streamed part of it on Instagram. No charges were filed, but the spectacle was a media circus. That same year, his former girlfriend Karrueche Tran got a restraining order against him. She said he threatened to kill her. A judge later granted a 5-year order of protection. Then, in 2022, a woman filed a $20 million lawsuit alleging that Brown engaged in inappropriate conduct after giving her an unknown substance aboard a yacht. His team denied everything, and the case was later dropped, but the headlines kept piling up. One ongoing case involves fans claiming they were assaulted during a concert. Another woman says she was injured by Brown's security team outside a venue. Kevin Spacey's House of Cards collapsed fast. His fall was one of the fastest in Hollywood history. One moment he was the face of prestige drama, the next, completely erased from screens. It all started in October 2017. Actor Anthony Rapp told BuzzFeed News that Spacey made a move on him at a party when Rapp was just 14. Spacey's response? He said he didn't remember but apologized if it happened. Then he came out as gay in the same statement. That move drew backlash for trying to deflect with sexuality. What followed was a flood. More than 30 people came forward, crew members, actors, even journalists. They described similar patterns: unwanted touching, inappropriate comments, and abuse of power on set. Netflix cut ties instantly. House of Cards killed off his character and rewrote the entire final season. In 2018, he was charged in Massachusetts for allegedly groping an 18-year-old at a bar. The case fell apart when the accuser stopped cooperating, but the damage was done. He became uncastable. That same year, Spacey released a strange YouTube video in character as Frank Underwood. He looked straight into the camera, blurring fact and fiction, and said, "You wouldn't believe the worst without evidence, would you?" Fans called it creepy. Everyone else called it unhinged. In 2022, he went on trial in the UK, facing multiple allegations of inappropriate physical conduct. Several men accused him of unwanted advances going back years. In 2023, he was found not guilty, but the trial revealed a long pattern of questionable behavior behind closed doors. By 2025, Spacey's name is rarely mentioned in Hollywood. No new projects, no cameos, no redemption arc. Harvey Weinstein's power and silence. He was Hollywood's ultimate power broker. If you wanted an Oscar, you probably worked with him. He ran Miramax, produced critical hits like Pulp Fiction and Shakespeare in Love, and made or broke careers. For decades, his power went unchecked, and people stayed silent. That all ended in October 2017. The New York Times published a detailed article accusing Weinstein was accused of long-term misconduct and quietly settling complaints over the years. Within days, The New Yorker followed with its own expose, including on-record accounts of coercive behavior and serious violations. Soon, over 80 women came forward: actresses, assistants, models, interns. Big names like Gwyneth Paltrow, Salma Hayek, and Lupita Nyong'o added their voices. Many said he lured them to hotel rooms under the guise of meetings, then assaulted or harassed them. Weinstein denied most of it but was fired from the Weinstein Company almost immediately. The Academy expelled him. BAFTA suspended his membership. The Screen Actors Guild removed him. Hollywood, which once protected him, now ran for cover. The details were horrifying. NDAs were used to buy silence. Assistants were allegedly made to help set up his meetings. For years, his behavior was whispered about but never challenged, until it couldn't be ignored. In 2020, a jury in New York convicted Weinstein on charges related to forcible misconduct and non-consensual acts. He was sentenced to 23 years in prison. In 2022, Los Angeles charged him again. That trial led to another conviction in 2023, adding 16 more years. He'll be over 90 before he's eligible for release, if he lives that long. Weinstein's fall also triggered something bigger. The number sign Me Too movement exploded into mainstream culture. Other powerful men, directors, executives, actors, were suddenly held accountable. He wasn't just a man who abused power. He was the system, protected by it, enabled by it, and finally undone by the voices that refused to stay quiet. He built an empire on silence, fear, and control. But in the end, he couldn't silence everyone. D. Koch's secret double life. In Singapore, D. Koch was a household name. He built a loyal audience on YouTube, worked as a popular radio DJ, and made brand deals left and right. His content was funny, sharp, and made to feel personal. That's what made the 2020 allegations so shocking. In August of that year, multiple young men came forward online. They accused D. Koch of sending inappropriate messages, engaging in manipulative behavior, and offering money in exchange for explicit interactions. Screenshots and voice messages quickly spread across social media. Several of the accusers were underage at the time of contact. At first, D. Koch denied the claims. He said the messages were fake or taken out of context. But then more proof appeared. Long message threads, audio recordings, and consistent patterns. The evidence was overwhelming. His radio station, Power 98, suspended him. Sponsors disappeared. His social media presence went silent. In 2021, authorities formally charged him with the exploitation of a minor and the production of obscene films. In court, it came out that he had stored explicit videos on his phone. He had arranged to meet teenage boys and pressured them online. These weren't just allegations anymore, they were facts backed by a criminal investigation. In August 2022, D. Koch pled guilty. He received 32 weeks in jail. During sentencing, the judge said he abused his position of influence and acted with clear intent. After his release, he didn't return to content creation. No apologies, no comeback video, just total silence. What makes his story so disturbing is how carefully he built his image. He marketed himself as trustworthy, even progressive, someone young fans could relate to. Meanwhile, behind the screen, he was using that trust to manipulate people too scared to speak up. Mr. Beast's image under fire. He was seen as the internet's good guy. Mr. Beast, aka Jimmy Donaldson, gave away houses, paid for surgeries, and helped thousands of people. His videos felt positive, clean, and drama-free. But in late 2024, things changed. A group of contestants from his big reality show Beast Games filed a lawsuit. They said the filming conditions were rough and the work environment felt toxic. Some claimed crew members were rude, and others said they didn't feel safe on set. Mr. Beast wasn't accused directly, but the lawsuit named his company and Amazon. An investigation followed. By November 2024, the results were public. No proof was found that Mr. Beast knew about any serious misconduct. But the report confirmed there were problems. Some staff had crossed the line. A few people were fired. Mr. Beast's team added new rules, set up a hotline, and brought in better managers. Fans had mixed reactions. Some said he couldn't control everything. Others thought he should have responded more clearly. Then people online started digging. They pointed out how some friends in older videos had quietly disappeared. Some remembered challenges that seemed too intense. A few clips, once funny, now felt awkward. Mr. Beast stayed quiet. No big post, no full statement. Just a quick mention that he was working on things behind the scenes. He kept uploading. Views stayed high. But something felt different. Comments got sharper. Viewers asked more questions. The shine wasn't gone, but it wasn't untouchable anymore. For years, Mr. Beast built a name on trust, kindness, and massive giving. That's why this hit harder. It wasn't one huge scandal. It was the shift in how people saw him. He's still huge, still respected, but fans are watching more closely now. And when your whole brand is about doing the right thing, people expect you to handle the tough stuff the same way. You cheered for them, quoted their lines, maybe even defended them online. But behind the scenes, these 10 actors weren't misunderstood. They were protected, and what they did, it's all documented. Flynn's scandalous trial. In the early 1940s, Errol Flynn was the king of Hollywood adventure. He played heroes with swords and charm, stealing hearts in Robin Hood and Captain Blood. But off-screen, things were far darker. In 1942, Flynn was charged with inappropriate conduct involving 2 teenage girls, Betty Hansen, age 17, and Peggy Satterley, just 16. One said the incident happened at Flynn's Hollywood home. The other said it took place on his yacht, the Sirocco. Both claimed he took advantage of them while they were drinking. Flynn denied everything and pleaded not guilty. The trial started in early 1943 and became national news. Headlines called it the trial of the century. Flynn's defense team went after the girls' reputations hard, claiming they were lying for fame. Some newspapers echoed that view, calling them girls with wild pasts, despite their age. Meanwhile, Flynn sat in court calm and smiling, cracking jokes with the press during breaks. The prosecution brought in witnesses, photos, and letters. Court documents showed troubling patterns. Flynn had allegedly bragged to friends about his adventures with young women. But the jury, made up of 9 men and 3 women, didn't convict. They found him not guilty after 13 hours of deliberation. Even though Flynn walked free, the case left a mark. His once squeaky clean image took a hit. Behind the pirate grin and sword-fighting flair was a man whose private behavior had gone under a microscope. For years after, fans were split. Some stayed loyal, others never saw him the same way again. Hollywood didn't cancel him. In fact, Warner Brothers doubled down on his bad boy appeal, putting him in more man-of-danger roles. But the truth was out. The man behind the legend had been dragged into court over serious claims involving minors. Mitchum's marijuana arrest. Robert had that sleepy-eyed charm and a voice like gravel. In the late 1940s, he was a rising star of film noir, tough, cool, untouchable. But in 1948, his real-life reputation took a major hit. That year, Mitchum was arrested during a late-night party in Laurel Canyon. Police raided the house and found marijuana. Mitchum, along with a young actress named Lila Leeds and two others, was taken into custody. The news hit like a bomb. The star of Out of the Past had been busted for drugs. The trial wasn't long. In early 1949, Mitchum pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 60 days in county jail, plus 2 years of probation. He ended up serving 43 days. During his time behind bars, photographers caught every moment, from shaving to sweeping floors. Life magazine even ran a photo spread of him mopping the jail floor, looking almost amused. Mitchum claimed the whole thing was a setup. He later told reporters that the drugs were planted or that he'd been targeted. But he didn't fight too hard in court. Some say he wanted to get it over with. Others think the studio advised him to lay low and ride it out. And that's exactly what happened. Rather than destroy his career, the scandal gave him a new kind of appeal. He became Hollywood's rebel, tougher, edgier, and more real than the clean-cut leading men of the day. RKO Pictures even re-released one of his older films to cash in on the press. Still, the arrest stayed with him. In interviews years later, Mitchum joked about it, calling the jail time just a bad weekend. But fans who remembered the headlines knew it had nearly derailed him. In a time when marijuana was seen as dangerous and criminal, Mitchum's case stood out. He was one of the first big-name actors to get caught up in a drug scandal. It shook up Hollywood's clean image and opened the door for the idea that stars weren't always saints. And from a smoky jail cell in Los Angeles, the message was clear. Even Hollywood's cool guys weren't untouchable. Sheen's clash with Denise Richards. In the early 2002, Charlie Sheen was back on top. After years of trouble, 2.5 Men made him a television superstar. He played a lovable bad boy, and people thought it was just a role. But in 2005, the mask started to slip. That year, his wife, actress Denise Richards, filed for divorce while 6 months pregnant. The papers painted a dark picture. According to court documents, Sheen had a violent outburst that same year. Richards claimed he threw a chair at her while she was holding their baby daughter. She also said he made threats and showed a pattern of anger. The public was stunned. Sheen had worked hard to shake off his past issues with drugs and sex work. The new image was of a reformed dad with a hit show. But the legal filings told a different story. Sheen denied the claims. He said Richards was trying to ruin his reputation and block him from seeing their kids. But the judge saw enough to grant her a restraining order. For fans, it was a shock. The guy who made them laugh every Monday night was now the subject of headlines filled with anger and fear. The drama played out in the press for months. Richards spoke out in interviews, saying she stayed quiet at first to protect their children. She described feeling unsafe and manipulated. Meanwhile, Sheen continued filming, cracking jokes, and pretending nothing was wrong. Behind the scenes, CBS stayed quiet. The show stayed on the air. Ratings were strong, but the cracks were visible, especially to those who read the court filings. This wasn't Sheen's first red flag, and as time would show, it wouldn't be his last. But in 2005, this was the moment many realized his comedy persona might be hiding something darker. The tension between sitcom fame and real-life behavior was too strong to ignore. Gooding's nightclub incident. For years, Cuba Gooding Jr. was Hollywood's feel-good guy. His Oscar-winning role in Jerry Maguire made him a household name. He shouted, "Show me the money," and the world loved him for it. But in 2019, the tone changed. It started with a night out in June 2019. A woman claimed that Gooding touched her inappropriately at a rooftop bar in Manhattan. She filed a police report, and days later, Gooding turned himself in. He denied the accusation and pleaded not guilty. His lawyers said there was security footage proving he did nothing wrong. But as the case moved forward, more stories surfaced. Prosecutors revealed that 14 other women had also come forward. Their claims dated back as far as 2003. One woman said he grabbed her at a party. Another said he made crude remarks and touched her without consent at a restaurant. The reports varied, but they painted a pattern. Gooding's legal team pushed back. They said the stories were exaggerated or taken out of context. He kept denying any wrongdoing. But the media attention only grew, and so did the damage to his reputation. In 2022, Gooding pleaded guilty to one count of forcible touching in a deal that allowed him to avoid jail time. He later withdrew the plea and reached a settlement in a separate civil lawsuit in 2023. The details of that deal weren't made public. By that point, the damage was done. The same guy who once danced on stage holding an Oscar was now best known for court dates and headlines. Fans who grew up watching him in movies like Radio and Men of Honor were left wondering how things got so far off track. The incident forced a lot of people to rethink what they thought they knew about Gooding. His once wholesome image had taken a serious hit, and no amount of charm could erase the reports. Brand's troubling accusations. He built a career on shock. He was loud, brash, and unpredictable, part comic, part provocateur. From raunchy stand-up to wild interviews, nothing seemed off-limits. But in September 2023, the headlines stopped laughing. A joint investigation by the Sunday Times, The Times, and Channel 4's dispatches revealed that 4 women had accused Brand of serious misconduct between 2006 and 2013. One case involved a woman who said Brand engaged in inappropriate behavior with her at his London home in 2012. She was treated at a crisis center the same day, according to medical records cited in the report. Another woman, just 16 at the time, said she was manipulated into a controlling relationship while Brand was in his 30s. She claimed he referred to her as the child during their time together and once sent a car to pick her up from school. The age of consent in the UK is 16, but the power gap and Brand's celebrity made the dynamic deeply troubling. Brand responded quickly, posting a video to his YouTube channel. He denied all allegations and claimed he was the target of a coordinated media attack. "I absolutely refute these allegations," he said, adding that all his relationships were consensual. But the fallout came fast. YouTube demonetized his channel. His comedy shows were canceled. Publishing deals were paused. Politicians called for deeper investigations, and more women began speaking to reporters. The story dominated UK media for weeks. Brand, who had rebranded himself in recent years as a political commentator and wellness guru, now found himself in the center of a scandal. His older jokes in past interviews resurfaced, many filled with references to risky encounters, dominance, and conquest. What used to be dismissed as just Russell being Russell now felt different. Hammer's shocking text controversy. Armie Hammer once had the kind of career most actors dream about. With his role in Call Me by Your Name, he earned critical praise, a loyal fan base, and leading man status in Hollywood. He was charming, clean-cut, and safe for press tours. But that image shattered in early 2021 when private messages allegedly from Hammer began surfacing on social media. The screenshots, first posted anonymously on Instagram, detailed disturbing fantasies involving dominance and control. The content was graphic, but what made it worse was how many women soon stepped forward. One woman, identified publicly as Effie, claimed Hammer coerced her into a relationship in 2017 and committed serious non-consensual acts. Effie later held a press conference with attorney Gloria Allred, describing what she said were manipulative and traumatic experiences. Hammer denied any criminal behavior. Through his legal team, he stated that all relationships were consensual and based on mutual agreement. From day one, Mr. Hammer has maintained that his interactions were entirely consensual, discussed and agreed upon in advance. His attorney said in March 2021, "Still, the media frenzy only grew louder. More women came forward. Some described emotional manipulation. Others claimed he crossed boundaries in ways that left them feeling used and scared. Stories varied, but the pattern was hard to ignore. The Los Angeles Police Department opened a formal investigation. Hammer stepped away from several film projects, including a major role opposite Jennifer Lopez in Shotgun Wedding. He was also dropped by his agency, WME, and lost brand deals. In mid-2021, he entered a treatment facility in Florida, reportedly for issues related to substance use and trauma. In 2023, after 2 years of review, prosecutors declined to file criminal charges, citing insufficient evidence. Legally, the case was closed. Publicly, it wasn't. Hammer's career hadn't recovered. He gave a brief interview in 2022 where he expressed regret and admitted to being emotionally abusive in past relationships. But the response was mixed. Many felt it was too late and not enough. What made this story hit so hard was how fast it unraveled. One day, Hammer was Hollywood's next big thing. The next, he was gone from screens, projects canceled, reputation ruined by screenshots, and stories too serious to ignore. Masterson's 30-year sentence. He was best known for playing Hyde on That 72nd Show, a laid-back, wisecracking stoner with a cult following. Off-screen, he lived a very different life. By 2023, he wasn't facing cameras. He was facing decades behind bars. In September of that year, Masterson was sentenced to 30 years to life in prison. A jury found him guilty of 2 counts of serious misconduct involving 2 women. The crimes took place in 2001 and 2003 at his home in Hollywood Hills. Both victims were members of the Church of Scientology, like Masterson himself. They said the church discouraged them from going to the police. One woman told the court she was drugged and experienced serious misconduct while drifting in and out of consciousness. The other described trying to push Masterson off her before passing out. Prosecutors said the evidence was overwhelming, graphic testimony, supporting witnesses, and consistent accounts. The jury agreed. This was not Masterson's first trial. The first attempt in 2022 ended in a mistrial when jurors couldn't reach a unanimous decision. But in the retrial, with new testimony allowed and a more focused case, the jury convicted him on 2 of 3 counts. Throughout both trials, Masterson remained silent. He showed no emotion during victim impact statements, even as one woman looked him in the eye and told him she hoped he'd think about the pain you caused every single day. His wife, actress Bijou Phillips, was present at sentencing but filed for divorce shortly after. Scientology's role in the case drew intense media attention. Victims testified that they were pressured to stay silent, avoid outside authorities, and report misconduct only within the church. One said she was threatened with being labeled a suppressive person if she spoke out. The 30-year sentence marked a turning point. It was one of the longest prison terms handed down to a celebrity in the post-number Me Too era. Fans of That 72nd Show were left stunned. The cast had once been a tight-knit group. Now, one of its biggest names was behind bars. Masterson's conviction wasn't just another headline. It was a rare moment when the system actually followed through, and the consequences were as serious as the crimes. Labeouf's conflict with FKA Twigs. He was once the golden boy of chaotic charm. From Transformers to Fury, he built a career on intensity, both on screen and off. But in December 2020, the public saw another side of him when singer FKA Twigs filed a lawsuit accusing him of deeply harmful behavior during their relationship. The relationship began in 2018, but Twigs said the problem started almost immediately. In the lawsuit, she claimed Labeouf was controlling, emotionally abusive, and physically harmful. One example involved him allegedly choking her in her sleep. She also described an incident where he threatened to crash the car they were in unless she professed love for him. The suit included claims of isolation, manipulation, and even health issues tied to his behavior. Labeouf didn't deny everything. In a response to the New York Times, he admitted, "I have been abusive to myself and everyone around me for years." He added, "I have no excuses for my alcoholism or aggression, only rationalizations." Still, he denied many specific claims from the lawsuit and argued the relationship was not as one-sided as it was being portrayed. The lawsuit drew widespread media coverage, especially because of Twig's status as an acclaimed artist and advocate for survivors. She gave several interviews describing how difficult it was to leave the relationship and how she hoped speaking out would help others. Labeouf's career took a hit. Netflix quietly removed his name from its Pieces of a Woman Awards campaign. Planned projects disappeared. Even his agent stopped representing him. By early 2021, he had checked into rehab for inpatient treatment and disappeared from the spotlight. As of 2025, the lawsuit is still ongoing. Twiggs has continued to speak out, using her platform to raise awareness about emotional abuse. Labeouf has stayed mostly silent, surfacing only in rare interviews or appearances. The case opened a wider discussion about abuse that isn't always visible, about how someone can seem charming and talented, yet still cause serious damage behind closed doors. Casey Affleck's on-set misconduct. Casey's career peaked in 2017 when he won the Academy Award for Manchester by the Sea. But long before the red carpet moment, two women had already taken him to court over what they said happened behind the scenes of a different project. In 2010, Affleck was sued by Amanda White and Magdalena Gorka, both of whom worked with him on the mockumentary I'm Still Here. White, a producer, and Gorka, the cinematographer, alleged a pattern of harassment and unprofessional behavior on set. The lawsuits described a chaotic work environment filled with crude jokes, inappropriate comments, and unwanted advances. Gorka claimed she was forced to sleep in the same hotel room as Affleck and woke up to him in bed with her, wearing only a t-shirt and underwear. She also alleged she was subjected to lewd conversations and degrading treatment by crew members, while Affleck, the film's director, did nothing to stop it. White said she was routinely subjected to verbal abuse and that Affleck once grabbed her without consent when she refused to stay in a hotel room with him. Affleck denied all allegations and said the lawsuits were baseless. Still, both cases were settled out of court for undisclosed amounts. No criminal charges were filed, and Affleck went quiet about the situation for years. The controversy resurfaced when he became an Oscar frontrunner in 2016. Critics and advocates questioned how the Academy could reward someone with such a history. Actress Brie Larson, who presented Affleck with the award, made headlines by refusing to clap after announcing his win. It was a moment that didn't go unnoticed. Affleck finally addressed the controversy in 2018. He admitted he had contributed to an unprofessional environment and said he had learned from the experience. But by then, the damage was already done. The accusations continued to shadow his career, casting a long shadow over what should have been his biggest moment. The lawsuits may have been settled, but the questions they raised never really went away. For many, Affleck's off-screen behavior couldn't be separated from his awards or roles. Baldoni's clash with Blake Lively. Justin Baldoni built his reputation as the nice guy of Hollywood. From his breakout as Raphael on Jane the Virgin to his image as a thoughtful director and mental health advocate, Baldoni was known for kindness, charm, and progressive messaging. That all changed in December 2024 when Blake Lively filed a lawsuit accusing him of inappropriate behavior during production of the film It Ends With Us. Lively claimed that Baldoni, who directed and co-starred in the project, fostered a toxic on-set environment. According to court documents, she alleged he made unprofessional remarks in front of cast and crew, pressured her during emotionally intense scenes, and retaliated when she voiced concern. The lawsuit stated that after she spoke up, she was targeted in what her legal team described as a smear campaign, with false rumors about her behavior spread to industry contacts. Baldoni's team denied all accusations. His publicist called the claims baseless and clearly timed to damage his career. Still, the fallout was immediate. He was dropped by his talent agency within days. Several advocacy organizations he partnered with distanced themselves. An award he was set to receive for social impact was quietly withdrawn. The lawsuit sent shockwaves through the entertainment world, partly because it came from someone with Lively's profile. She's long been known as a careful, selective actress who rarely courts controversy. Her decision to go public gave the claims added weight. Support poured in from both fans and fellow actors who praised her for speaking out. His production company released a brief statement saying it supported safe, respectful workplace practices and would cooperate with any investigation. As of mid-2025, the case remains unresolved. Legal teams continue to negotiate, and no final judgment has been made, but the reputational hit has already landed. The man once seen as Hollywood's wholesome alternative now finds himself under scrutiny, not for what he portrayed on screen, but for what allegedly happened behind the camera. It was a fitting end to a list full of actors who fooled the public with charisma only to be exposed by what was happening when the cameras weren't rolling.